Hello, welcome once again at Apes Biology, where we are solving past questions of WAEC. As I told you, it is not about the quantity of questions, about understanding the reason why the answers are correct and the reasons why the answers are wrong. Now, we are going to go straight to our discussion for today, but before we continue, remember to hit that subscribe button at Apes Biology and remember the hashtag that is now on reign. Hashtag Apes Biology. Right. Now, we have a past question here that was taken from WASSCE 2017 objective. And I've decided to copy the question because I'm wanting to present it all in a natural way so that you see what we're really dealing with here. Okay. Now, we have a question, and the question is question number 18. And it says, from the past question of WASSCE 2017 objective, please go through your hard copy. You'll see that there. I copy the question there. It says number 18. Which of the following sequence, which of the following sequence is the correct route of the transmission of impulse along a reflex arc? Along a reflex arc. The correct route of transmission of impulse along a reflex arc. Now, a reflex arc, from your theoretical biology, you know that it is a diagram or an illustration showing the path followed by a reflex action. Now, a reflex arc is a diagram illustrating the pathway of a reflex action. So what it means that if you don't understand what a reflex action is first, you can't even answer this question. Neither will you be able to answer the question if you don't know what a reflex arc is. Remember, a reflex action is a sudden, fast, involuntary automatic response to stimulus that does not require thinking. A sudden, fast, automatic response to stimulus is called a reflex action, like touching a hot object and suddenly withdrawing your hand, stepping on the pin and suddenly raising your foot. And then even there's what is called the knee jerk. You tap the knee when you cross the leg and then it reacts. These are called reflex actions. Now, these reflex actions, as I said, they are interpreted in the spinal cord. Now, the pathway followed by a reflex action, the pathway followed by that impulse that comes from a reflex action is called a reflex arc. So let's look at how a reflex arc should look like before we can even think of answering the question. Now, a reflex arc usually starts with what is called, there will be a part of the body that is called the receptor. It can be at any point of the body. If that is to illustrate the receptor are actually connected by linked to sensory nerves that have a swollen point here. Okay, this will now serve as our sensory nerve, right? The sensory nerve. We take this as a sensory nerve. The sensory nerve carries the impulse and bring it into what is called the central nervous system, specifically the spinal cord, and then it links up with another nerve that will represent like this, and this nerve will be called the intermediate nerve. Some call it intermediate neuron, right? Nerve and neuron goes together. Then from there you have another nerve that comes out of it like that continues its journey, and this nerve is called the motor nerve or neuron, right? Motor nerve or neuron. Then within this whole place like this, that is where we'll find what is called the spinal cord. So I'm showing you what a reflex arc actually look like. So from this, the motor nerve carries the impulse and brings it to another one here, which we'll refer to now as the effector. The effector now will now be an example where the impulse actually have its effect, where there is a response like the muscles. So basically, if you look at what we have here, the component of a reflex arc, if you look at the arrow, let's change the color of the arrow so that you understand. A reflex arc goes like this, comes like this, and then finish its journey like that. Okay? Now, looking at that, it is very clear that we can identify the various components of a reflex arc. This is an arc. It's an arc. It just goes and then come back. It's an arc. So the first part of a reflex arc is called number 1 here, the receptor. Then the second part is number 2 here, called the sensory nerve. The third part of a reflex arc, which is very, very tricky to understand, is this gap you see. These gaps you see, these gaps are called synapse. All right? There's a synapse there, and there's another gap here that is also called what? Synapse. So synapse are actually spaces between the nerve cells or the neurons. So that is another third part of a neuron. We can identify this as number 3, synapse. And then we have the intermediate nerve as number 4 there, a part of the reflex arc. We have number 5 here called the motor nerve, and we have number 6 here called the effector. So this is a reflex arc. So if you are writing theoretical exams and then they ask you, what are the components of a reflex arc? You have number 1, receptor, number 2, sensory nerve, number 3, spinal cord, number 4, intermediate nerve, and number 5, motor nerve, and number 6, do not forget what you have as effector. Now let's hit the question. Remember, the diagram of this is diagram of a reflex arc. Now the question now says, which of the following sequence step by step is the correct route of transmission of impulse along a reflex arc? Now look at the options very well. You will notice that which of them starts with receptor to sensory nerve. Let's look at them. Option A. Let's see whether it's correct. Option A says receptor. We have receptor there. B, sensory nerve. We have sensory neuron here. Correct. Same thing as sensory nerve. Option 3, we have synapse there. Then we have intermediate nerve, that is there. Synapse is also there. Motor nerve is also there. Motor nerve. And then 6, we have effector. It looks like option A is already the answer. But let's exhaust the option. Will it be option B, where you have receptor, then motor nerve? Definitely is not receptor to motor nerve. It's actually receptor to sensory nerve. So this is not right. Is this synapse? No, no. For the fact that it's receptor to motor nerve makes this answer absolutely wrong. This is not acceptable. Starting with effector, impulse cannot start with effector. This is absolutely wrong. Starting with effector here, this is absolutely. You don't need to go far. So because the answer is receptor to sensory nerve as our diagram, to synapse as number 3, to intermediate neuron, to synapse again, you can see synapse there, to motor neuron, and to effector. This is our answer. This is how to answer our past question for objective 2017. Watch out for additional video explaining what we mean with how we explain other questions with that comes up, reasons why the answers are wrong and reasons why the answers are correct. Enjoy learning at Apex Biology. #Apex Biology. Bye.